Hello there YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Slot It In There with me, Sean. And this week it's my episode of My Gaming History. So, as it's already been established, I am old, very old. So in order to go back to the beginning of my gaming history, we're going to need to rewind quite a bit. Let's go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not that old. Fast forward a bit.
Area bombing.
Bridlington, on the East Yorkshire coast. Back in the 1970s, seaside towns in the UK were still popular, as your average working class family couldn't afford to jet abroad. Bridlington was one of the staples every summer that we used to go through for day trips. We'd spend many happy an hour on the beach building sandcastles and crabbing. Amongst all the other families that flooded the beaches during the summer periods. However, it was the neon-lit destinations of the arcades that held my attention, and this is where my gaming history begins. So it began in the mid to late 1970s in England's coastal towns on the east coast of England. And seeing these arcades bloom at the time when it was all new technology and it was just revolutionary. I can't explain just how exciting it was at the time. If you haven't seen my series of videos called Retro Arcade Games, I urge you to go and watch them. I'll put a link down below so you can go and have a look at them, where I dive into a bit more detail onto some of the arcade games that I've known and loved over the years. So a couple of examples from the arcades, not necessarily from the 1970s, but arcade games in general that I've loved over the years. The first one I'm going to choose is Galaxian. This was developed in 1979 by Namco, and it's basically Space Invaders on steroids. Space Invaders was revolutionary at the time, but Galaxian took it one step further and then some. It was full colour, it was loud, it was fast, and it was very hard to play, but oh so enjoyable. So here's a bit of footage of me playing Galaxian in one of the other videos. I hope you enjoy. Now next up is an absolute stonker of an arcade game, and this is Star Wars the arcade game. It was in an enclosed cabinet where you felt like you were the pilot of an X-Wing. The graphics by Atari were vector graphics, full colour, sound bites from the movies. It was absolutely awesome at the time, and it still is today. What an absolute classic game. Everything about this game is amazing.
I'm going in.
So my passion for playing arcade games continued, and it bloomed into me wanting my own home personal computer. So I kept badgering my parents to get me one, and eventually one Christmas in 1981 I got a ZX81 by Sinclair. Now the ZX81 was the precursor to the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. It had 1K of memory. 1K. Now to put that into perspective, here is an example of a shortcut on my desktop. And if I just look at the file properties of it, you can see that it is much more than 1K. So that is just one shortcut on a standard desktop Windows PC today. So that gives you an idea of just how little memory or RAM it actually had. So with the ZX81, there was not a lot of games for it in 1K, but there were a few. But what I did was learn to program with it. I had a big folder full of photocopied sheets of programs for the ZX81, which I would happily type in. It would take me hours and hours and hours to type in and then run them. And I got some kind of gaming content out of it. And here's me entering the classic Hello World program, but with a slotted in there twist. However, my friend Matthew also had a ZX81, but he had a 16K RAM pack, which you plugged into the back of the ZX81, and it increased the memory to 16K, which was massive at the time. And with that, you were able to run games like this. 3D Monster Maze. It's a 1981 survival horror game designed by Malcolm Evans and published by JK Gray Software, and it was rendered using low resolution character block graphics. It was one of the first 3D games for a home computer. This game at the time was just amazing. 3D, you're running around a maze and a Tyrannosaurus Rex chasing you. Absolutely brilliant. I remember playing it multiple times up in the bedroom of my friend at his home in Beverley in East Yorkshire, and it was fantastic. So moving on from the ZX81, I then got a ZX Spectrum 48K in 1982, and I kept this till around 1984. There's many classic games on the ZX Spectrum, from the likes of Manic Miner, Jet Set Willy, Jetpack, Saberwolf, School Days, Monty Mole and the like, and such and such. But a couple of my absolute favourites are Attic Attack by Ultimate Play the Game. It's a kind of top-down adventure where you're running around a castle and you need to find 3 parts of a key to escape the castle. We played absolutely hours and hours and hours on this game. Absolutely loved it. And my second choice is Chuckie Egg, produced by ANF Software in 1983. The game was actually written by Nigel Alderton, who was about 16 or 17 years old at the time, which is remarkable. But this was a kind of sign of the times back then. A lot of bedroom programmers, as there was known back then. So basically in the game you must collect the 12 eggs positioned around the level before a countdown timer reaches 0. And there's also piles of seed which may be collected to increase points and stop the countdown timer for a while, but will otherwise be eaten by the hens that patrol the level, causing them to pause. The game was awesome to play. It was fast, it was responsive, and it was tough to get through the levels, but oh so enjoyable. So in 1984 I packed up my ZX Spectrum along with all the joysticks and cassette recorder and all the games I'd amassed into a box and sold it to a friend. I then used that money to put towards my next computer purchase, which was the mighty Commodore 64. I loved the Commodore 64. It was such an upgrade, in my opinion, from the ZX Spectrum. It had higher resolution graphics, it had dedicated sprites, and also the SID chip, which gave you 4-channel audio, which was revolutionary back then, and it still is today. It's produced some of the best chip tunes ever to be heard to this day, from the likes of Rob Hubbard, Martin Galway, Ben Dalglish, to name but a few. Some of those tunes are absolutely amazing. I invested heavily into the Commodore 64, eventually buying the Commodore 1541 5¼ floppy disk drive. Now this thing was a beast, it was massive, but it enabled you to store up to 170K on a floppy disk. However, if you look at this photo of one, you'll see that down the side there's a notch cut out of it. This indicates that the disk is read-writable. If you wanted to ensure that your data wasn't overwritten, you put a sticker over this hole. Now, some bright spark discovered that if you cut the same size hole out on the opposite side of the disk and then flip the disk over, you could use the underneath of the disk to record data on, thereby doubling your storage for zero cost. So for each disk, you now could store 340K. Fantastic. So like the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64 had thousands of games to choose from. Some of the more popular ones were the likes of Bruce Lee, Impossible Mission, Paradroid, The Last Ninja, Monty on the Run, Thing on a Spring. But the first game that I'm going to choose from the Commodore 64 is by Epyx, and it's Pit Stop 2. It's a Formula One racing game, racing around racetracks against your friends, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was fast, it was slick, and you had to manage your tyres, which was indicated by colours on the tyres. So if it got to red, you knew that you was on your last chance, and if any of those tyres blew, that was it, you was off the track. An absolutely thrilling game. And my second choice is Archer McLean's International Karate. We used to adore this game, battling out against each other. There was so many moves you could do, so many kicks and punches and blocks and somersaults, and the graphics were amazing. The soundtrack by Rob Hubbard was absolutely stonking. Everything about this game was just brilliant. So, next up is the Commodore Amiga. What a machine. I absolutely adored the Amiga, and I stuck with it for quite a number of years. So much so that I originally got the Commodore 500, and then after a couple of years progressed to the 600 and eventually onto the 1200. It was an absolutely amazing computer to own. It had a 16-bit CPU, dedicated chipset for sound and graphics and the like, higher resolution, smoother sprites, more colours on screen. It was just absolutely amazing. Some of the notable games on the Amiga at the time were Alien Breed, Sensible Soccer, Lemmings, Another World, Lotus Turbo Challenge 2, and Zool, to name but a few. Like the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum before it, this was a very popular computer, and there were thousands of titles produced for it. Absolutely brilliant. But the two games that I'm going to pick from my memories of the Commodore Amiga are the first one, Super Cars 2. Now, Supercars 2 was a top-down racing game where you raced around circuits either against bots or against bots and your friends, and it was just amazing. We had so much fun playing this for hours and hours. Absolutely brilliant. You could pick up weapons and try and take your opponents out using those, and it was just so much fun. Enjoy watching the video. And my second game from the Commodore Amiga is Pinball Fantasies. This was just sublime to us. We played it over and over again for many, many, many nights. It was various pinball tables and had proper ball physics, brilliant soundtrack, absolutely brilliant graphics. I believe the creators had formed from the Amiga demo scene at the time. Some of the things they managed to get out of the Commodore Amiga and the Commodore 64 before that were absolutely mind-blowing, really pushing the graphical capabilities and the sound capabilities of the devices. Some of the demos produced were absolutely stunning and works of art, absolutely. So I believe the programmers of the Pinball Fantasies, Pinball Dreams, Pinball Illusions had come from that scene. So it was bound to be good. Okay, so that brings us on to the final chapter in my gaming history. I clearly remember one day back in early 1994, my friend Bob from college asked me to go around to his house to have a look at a new game that he'd just downloaded for his computer, a PC. And that game was this. Oh my God, what an absolute game changer in every sense of the word. Doom was pivotal. Its place in gaming history is obviously well established, but seeing this game running on my friend's PC for the very first time was just absolutely jaw-dropping. It was like something I'd never seen before. I didn't know how something like this could have been made. So this prompted me to pack up my Amiga and everything and sell it and get myself my very first PC. And that was an Apricot Zen. And if some of you know of me and my gamertag, that is also Zen, and that's where it came from. Now back then, it was quite a cutting-edge PC. It had an Intel Pentium processor running at 60 megahertz, and even then, I managed to get it overclocked to 66 megahertz. Wow. It had 16 megabytes of memory and it had a 40 megabyte hard drive. But that was enough. And that got me to play Doom. And thus my love of PC gaming began. So everybody's aware of PC gaming. Some of the best titles that I've known and loved over the years since 1994 are Tomb Raider, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake 3 Arena, Carmageddon, Total Annihilation, and Half-Life. But the two games that I'm going to pick from all of the years from my PC gaming are Unreal Tournament 2004. Now back then in the early 2000s, my friends and I played this every night. Online, together. We even formed our own clan, the BPC, the Bad Ping Collective, and we played competitively for a number of years. Absolutely adored this game. It was fast, it was furious, you needed lightning fast reactions, and especially playing against other clans in tournaments, it was absolutely epic.
Flawless victory.
And my last choice is Portal. What can I say about Portal? It ticks all of my boxes. It's a single player story driven game. It's first person. It's got puzzles and logic element to it, so it's simple to pick up but very hard to master, and it's funny. The story's brilliant, the characters are brilliant, and overall it's just one of those games that deserve a special place in history. It was truly monumental at the time, and then obviously Portal 2 came along, and typical Valve, no Portal 3. So, for all you console gamers out there, I haven't forgot you. We had a number of consoles over the years, more of a family thing, so that's why I've left it to the end, because it's not really my gaming history. And this is a few of them that we've known and loved over the years and had many happy gaming experiences on. So there we go, that's my gaming history. Thank you for staying with me on this video. While I've been making this video, it's given me cause to realise that this is my 50th year of being a gamer, and I've loved each and every minute of it. So if you're out there, whether you're Team Blue, Team Green, whether you're a Nintendo, whether you're a PC gamer, a mobile gamer, a retro gamer, whatever kind you are, here's to you lot. And here's to the industry that we all know and love. And thank you to all the game producers, the bedroom programmers, the artists, the sound guys, everybody involved in producing these games. Thank you very much. You've given an old man 50 years of happiness. So that's it for me. Hope to see you in another video soon. But for now, bye-bye.